Now, you may be looking at this and thinking, what the heck is he doing going to Croft Manor? Why aren't we going on to the next mission? Well, basically, after you've finished the first level in Bolivia, everywhere in Croft Manor unlocks, and just for the sake of completion, it's generally just a good idea to just get it over and done with right now. Lots of artifacts hidden about. This is basically the only thing that you're going to be doing is collecting artifacts. But it is just quite nice to see Lara's home. Don't really get to chat to certain people though. Winston just kind of stands there. Thankfully, Zip does respond. Now, Croft Manor has been in pretty much all the mainstay Tomb Raider games. So, it's there in the first game, but it's not really explorable. It's just the tutorial, and you never actually see the outside of the home. It was really greatly expanded in Tomb Raider 2, because you could explore everywhere, and it's amazing. I have memories of playing an old Tomb Raider game, and it's largely because of Croft Manor, but I can't remember for the life of me whether it was Tomb Raider 2 or Tomb Raider 3. I just honestly don't know. It's one of the two, because I definitely remember it and never really playing too well. I was just terrible at games back then. So it's fully explorable, there are all sorts of hidden secrets about. And then it's not playable in Tomb Raider Chronicles, but it does appear in cutscenes. And then the time came for Tomb Raider Legend, and the manor got a really major redesign. Basically, the redesign was based on the version of Croft Manor that appeared in the film, Lara Croft Tomb Raider, and also The Cradle of Life. Which I think is just quite interesting that they decided to do that. Also, you can change Lara's outfit whilst you're here, which is always quite fun. This is the only one that we've really got properly available to us now, so I'll go with this. It's a nice change of pace. I think Lara needs a little bit of leisurely clothing to be going around her home. Now, as I was saying with the film version, so that's what this entire house is based off of now, or at least in the trilogy of Legend, Anniversary, and Underworld. And the exterior of the manor is basically Hatfield House in Hertfordshire, which has been used in quite a lot of films, actually. There's interesting little bits and pieces about it. So the present Jacobean house was built in 1611 by Robert Cecil, 1st Earl of Salisbury and Chief Minister to King James I, and it's basically a prime example of Jacobean architecture and is currently the home of Robert Gascoigne Cecil, 7th Marquess of Salisbury, I think. Don't quote me on that. So apparently an earlier building on the site was the Royal Palace of Hatfield, but only part of it still exists. And it was apparently the childhood home and favourite residence of Queen Elizabeth I. So, it's quite a ways back.
You're not going outside, are you?
Now,
When there are still so many
in terms of other films and places that Hatfield House has appeared, many interior scenes of the Wayne Manor in the 1989 film Batman and the 1992 sequel Batman Returns were at Hatfield House.
Don't be sarcastic, Alistair. It's dishonest.
Now, so it obviously appears in Tomb Raider, the film, and bits of the house also appear in the sequel, particularly the long gallery in the library
I thought it was a
in
rhetorical
a particular scene.
I would have.
It also appears in The New World with Colin Farrell in it. You get a little shot of it in Shakespeare in Love. The long gallery was used in the 2009 Sherlock Holmes. And
Above the waters,
it was
twin
also
sisters
featured
turn their
in
backs, one upon the other.
the BBC's Royal Upstairs Downstairs.
Lovely.
So, and also, I think bits of it appear in like the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and V for Vendetta. So, it's appeared in all sorts of things. But yeah, I have really... Well, I don't really have a good memory of this, but I do remember playing in a Croft Manor at some point, and it's frustrating that I can't remember which game it is. Because it's the one memory that I have of Tomb Raider from my childhood. Now, I was saying before that the main reason that you are in Croft Manor is to collect artifacts. As you run around, you will find things that will give you a riddle. And if you follow this riddle to its logical conclusion, then you get the final artifact. There are other things to do in the library here, but we won't be doing them right now because we need to progress further with this riddle making. Now, it's really insane how big Croft Manor is. It's perhaps a bit too big for its own good, in terms of actually getting stuff done. It just takes a little while because Lara's not too fast on the movement. But there's a reasonable amount of symmetry going on. So where there's an artifact over on the other side, there's an artifact on this side, and so on and so forth. And you physically can't leave unless you quit out of the game, so... Yeah, it's very different to how it appeared in previous titles. But I believe we may now be heading to the swimming pool. Because basically there are two main puzzle rooms. The swimming pool and the gym. Now, there is an artifact over here, and we've also got to pull the lever. I'm going to be a complete and utter pillock in this particular room, by forgetting to pull a certain lever when I really should have pulled it. We also have these fish statues. I'm not quite sure what the designer was thinking with these fish statues, but they are reasonably impressive. Now I have to say, I do like this whole artifact hunting thing, but I do believe that this particular thing can last a bit too long for its own good. That's not what I meant to do, but oh well. There is a ridiculous amount of setting up in the two main rooms that you've got to get things in. I don't quite know why they decided to do it like that, but they did. And currently I'm being a bit of an idiot, because the platform that I need to get onto to be able to get up to the upper level is on the other side of the room. Because Lara can't physically make that jump. I'm just slightly crazy. I think I was just like... I remember doing this, but I can't remember how I do it. And then not reading things properly, and yada yada yada. I'm just really, really bad sometimes when it comes to doing things like this. I don't know why I bother anyway, because the overall gameplay standard has kind of... There's only been the odd time where I've had spectacular shows of skill. One being Bayonetta, I would like to think. And the other, Knight's Journey of Dreams. The rest didn't go quite so well. Now, this is kind of one of the things about Tomb Raider that I think is probably not so excellent in its earlier forms. It's that there are points where you can just be in an area and just be like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. So you just kind of guess. Or you just stand around looking at things and be like, I wonder if I move this here, that there, whatchamacallit over where, and so on and so forth. But, it could be a hell of a lot worse. There are games where literally I've been stuck for years, and they're not even puzzle games. Two such games that I have not very fond memories of being stuck on. Sonic Adventure 2 Battle and Sonic Heroes. I don't know why. I think my gameplay skills as a child were just not that excellent. So I kind of ended up just losing patience, shall we say. Now, this is the second part
Within the Hall of Knowledge
of the riddle.
Cerulean, Topaz, Viridian and Crimson in turn reveal their arcanum. Splendid.
And now, right here, I'm about to do something very stupid, because what you're also meant to do is, no, you do have to do it if you want to get everything, is pull the statues so that they face inwards. Because when you do that, you get the lever, which in turn opens up one of the little grates in the pool, which allows you to get into the next room. You do also kind of pick up all your items around here. I don't quite know the purpose of it. I do know that in doing this, you are getting putting yourself in a better position to get an upgrade to your pistols. So that's always very helpful. Especially considering you will be using your guns a lot. And I do mean that. That those guns get a lot of use out of them. Now, one thing that I found out the other day whilst looking at the box for Tomb Raider Anniversary, because, as I said, I had to go and finish the trilogy, so I managed to find myself Tomb Raider Anniversary, which I was quite happy with. And although the soundtrack for Tomb Raider Legend, I believe, has never been released as a standalone thing, you can get a version of it with Tomb Raider Anniversary, as if you get a particular version of it which gives you a bonus disc, which is quite cool. I don't quite know why it never got anything. Oh, okay. Now my brain is fixed and working correctly. Basically, with Tomb Raider Anniversary, if you've got like the collector's edition, you got a 13-track promotional soundtrack, which had music from Legend and Tomb Raider Anniversary. So it didn't get a full soundtrack release. Although you do get kind of most of the main level songs, which is quite good. And when I eventually show off Tomb Raider Anniversary, I'll probably be showing that off as well. Probably, maybe, I'm not sure. Now what I'm doing here is being an idiot and just being like, why wasn't the second gate open? Ah! The reason for this is because I've got to go do the statues. I'll figure it out eventually, don't you worry. I'm just a bit slow. Also, I don't know whether I've done that before, but that is the Swan Dive, which is a nice, elegant, graceful way of Lara to get into water. I don't think it's until Tomb Raider Underworld where it gets very specific when you get to do a swan dive. There's like 3 points in the game where you do a swan dive and it gets you an achievement. They're like the highest places in the game, which is quite cool, but slightly frustrating when you then are just like, I've now got to climb the entire way back up. Either that or, you know, or try and kill yourself so that you respawn at the checkpoint. There is that. And there we go, I did what I was supposed to do to be able to get into the next room. Which is the gym. And our second main thing to go through. Now, the gym is slightly more frustrating than the pool, if only because there's a lot of stuff going on in it. Like, you've got to move a lot of things, and it's very platforming heavy. But here we are, the gym. Now, for some bizarre reason, I have trouble getting this particular artifact. Because basically what you need to do is do a running jump to go and get it, because you can't use the grapple. And just for some bizarre reason, the Lara just doesn't want to do the jump that often. But there we go. Sorted. Now I will say that as kind of slightly dull as this may be to watch, it's definitely quite fun to play, and it's just a very relaxing experience going around Croft Manor. I think just because kind of you get to hone your platforming skills, which is a very helpful thing to be able to do, because if you aren't used to this type of game, then being able to do this is just very useful. Now, I'm being stupid here. You can notice a running trend. What I was meant to do there to get that artifact was just drop down onto the slope and then jump. Because from here, I can't actually do anything. Some of these rocks are just here to play games with you, which is rather mean. But, oh well. They've got to have their puzzles somewhere, hey? I still don't quite get why Lara does that particular thing when climbing up. I know it looks incredibly graceful and everything, but it seems a little bit superfluous. Also ever so slightly impossible, because, you know, kind of hurt your back unless you're a contortionist, and I don't think Lara is quite a contortionist. Very acrobatic and flexible, yes. Being able to do a contortionist act, not so much, I believe. After all, she's an archaeologist. Now, it's really weird seeing kind of how Lara has evolved and changed, because for the longest time she was kind of seen as a video game sex icon, and over time she just kind of lost favour with people, largely because obviously we have developed into a much more how do I put this? We've developed into a society which focuses on the objectification of women as kind of a terrible thing, and obviously it is. It's definitely a terrible thing. But Lara hasn't necessarily always been about what she looks like. Part of it has always been the gameplay. And I guess the gameplay got forgotten quite frequently. And it's only been as the reboot came that Lara has kind of come back a little bit. And that's because they have made her more human. Although in doing so, I don't know whether they really have made Lara as badass as she used to be. I don't know, it's awkward. Because obviously Lara is very much the product of the male mind, which is really bad. Well, not necessarily really bad, but it does feel slightly slimy. It's kind of the same thing that you can feel with Bayonetta, up until the point that you realise that the actual physical designs of Bayonetta were done by a woman, because that was the way that Hideki Kamiya felt was best suited to get a suitable female character, that wasn't kind of completely trapped in the male ideology. Now, I'm not quite sure how Lara, well, quite who designed. Oh, but Lara was created by Toby Gard, who, yeah, my knowledge of Tomb Raider stuff is not great. So which is why I'm resorting to Wikipedia. It's a generally safe source, definitely. So basically, Toby Gard went through about 5 designs before arriving at the character's final appearance. Initially he'd wanted a male lead character with a whip and a hat. And then Core Design, the people who made the first Tomb Raider games, the co-founder Jeremy Smith, said it was very derivative of Indiana Jones, and it very much would have been. And he wanted more originality. So, Gard decided that a female character would work better from a design standpoint. And he also wanted to counter stereotypical female characters, a la bimbos or dominatrixes. Smith was sceptical, but he eventually came round to it. They went through kind of a variety of things, and then kind of settled on a tough South American woman with a braid named Laura Cruz. So, if ever you hear any people mispronouncing Lara's name, they are evidently thinking of one of her original designs, Laura. But Eidos management preferred a more UK-friendly name, the Cruz bit that they weren't too pleased with, I would assume. And so they went with Lara Croft. And then in doing that, they incorporated all of the England and the backstory of British origin and stuff. So basically, they wanted to realistically animate the character. So they sacrificed quick animations for fluid movement, and this is something that, for the most part, you can see in quite a lot of Tomb Raider games after it. The only exception I would say would be the most recent, the reboot, which I would say is not quite as fluid as it could be. So as time went on, Lara changed, polygons were added, she was given more realistic curves. Lara's had numerous boob jobs, and the size of the breasts have changed quite dramatically over time. But Tomb Raider Legend is when Toby Gard, who first created Lara, came back as a consultant. So I think this is why people were quite pleased with Tomb Raider Legend, is that it brought Tomb Raider back to what it should have been, which is quite cool. Also, apparently, the voice actress for Lara that was initially rumoured was Rachel Weisz, who you would have most recently seen as Evanora in Oz the Great and the Powerful, probably. And she apparently went to Cambridge. You see, I can't bloody escape. There's always some blooming connection to my university. Typical. You also have a slight connection in the fact that Alistair is working on his dissertation, which he mentioned at the very start of the game when he was first introduced. But I believe he's at Oxford. So, or at least he, his dissertation goes towards Oxford. let me double check. Yes, apparently it's the University of Oxford in Italy, which I didn't know existed. Oh well. So here we are back in the library. I really love this library. It's amazing. When I kind of get a place of my own, I want a library. Because they're just so awesome. Like, seriously, just all the books. I mean, especially with some of the books that I'm getting.
Revealed visage and
just...
countenance touched
Oh.
in haste. Raise up the steward. Fun.
Lara dear, think you might not want to say, what fun? It's a very stereotypically, posh person thing to say. Which, although you are incredibly posh, I don't think it's quite the image you want to be portraying. So, as you can see, we have got every single artifact, bar the gold one. So that's what we're going to go and do now. And then after that, we will be done with Croft Manor forever, so we'll never have to come back apart from in cutscenes. So yes, I apologise if this has been a rather long and slightly dull part, but hopefully you've learnt some stuff about Tomb Raider and its origins, and also just kind of had a nice relaxing time in general. Because you aren't quite going to get anything this relaxing again for the rest of the game. Also, considering I know what I'm doing after Tomb Raider Legends, you're not going to get any time to relax like this for a while.
Athena turns to face the sun, whose burden then reveals her golden laurel.
Now, this is something that I've noticed in Tomb Raider Legends, is that every now and again, the subtitles will say something, but the characters won't actually physically say it. So, like, with the almost there, that just wasn't mentioned. And I don't quite know why that happens. Right, I think Athena is now facing the sun? Yes, she is, so let's go stand on the pressure plate. And there we go. Puzzle solved. And there is our gold artifact. So now we just have to go grab it. And then we are free of Croft Manor. Which is just quite cool. I really do like this design for the manor. It's just really cool. I would quite like to live in a place like this. Maybe not quite as big. Maybe scrap the gym, put in a personal cinema. And I'd be quite happy. But there we go. That is the end of Croft Manor for Tomb Raider Legend. So now that we've done that, it's just time to go straight into the next chapter of the game. And I believe we're heading to Peru. So, yes, we need to make sure that we save our rewards to the save file, otherwise you will have just wasted your time. We've got an upgrade to our pistols, which is awesome. You're always going to just want to make sure you save. Just make sure it's all there. And then upon exiting Croft Manor, you are done. So, I'll see you all in Peru.